The hospital intercom crackled at 2 a.m. Dr. Arjun Mehta, Emergency Bay 3. Code red, multiple victims incoming. I sprinted down the corridor. When those doors burst open, I saw 3 gurneys, 3 bodies, my wife, my brother, my son, all unconscious. I tried to reach them, but a hand grabbed my shoulder. "You can't see them yet," the doctor whispered. "The police will explain everything. Hospital lights always buzz louder at 2 a.m. Maybe it's the silence. Maybe it's the exhaustion after 8 hours on the trauma floor. Or maybe it's because night shifts bring the worst kinds of pain. But nothing prepared me for that intercom call. I dropped my pen mid-chart and ran, white coat flying behind me. When I reached the trauma bay, nurses were already scrambling. EMTs crashed through the sliding doors. 3 gurneys, 3 motionless bodies, each one terrifyingly familiar. I froze. No, this can't be happening. First gurney, Priya, my wife, blonde hair matted with blood. Second, Rohan, my younger brother, face bruised, deep gash on his temple. Third, Dev, my son, my knees nearly buckled. "Dev!" I shouted, lunging forward. A hand caught my shoulder. Firm, gentle, intentional. Dr. Santos, the attending. "You can't go in there," he said quietly. I stared at him, wild-eyed, gasping. "That's my family," I said hoarsely. "My wife, my brother, my son." He didn't move. He looked around once, twice, then leaned in close. "You can't see them yet. The police will explain everything once they arrive." My world stopped. A siren still wailed outside. Nurses moved in controlled chaos. But for me, everything went silent. "What do you mean?" I whispered. "Why would the police—" His eyes dropped. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just an accident. Something was deeply, deeply wrong. 20 minutes later, the police arrived. 2 plainclothes officers, stone-faced. While my colleagues worked frantically to stabilize Priya, Rohan, and Dev, I stood frozen near the nurses' station. Arms crossed, knuckles white, mind spiraling. I hadn't been allowed in. Not even a glimpse, not even a word about my son's condition. "Dev's strong," I whispered to myself. "He's only 16. He'll make it." But my gut was screaming, and the way Dr. Santos looked at me, that downward glance, that tight mouth, that deliberate hesitation, felt less like medical concern and more like guilt. Finally, Officer Kaur approached me. Notepad already out. Eyes unreadable. "Dr. Mehta," she said formally, "we need to speak with you privately." I led them into the break room and closed the door. "What happened?" I demanded. She exchanged a glance with her partner, then began slowly. "Earlier tonight, around 1:15 a.m., your wife's vehicle was found crashed into a guardrail on County Route 7. My breath caught. "That's 20 minutes from our home." She nodded. "Yes, all 3 passengers were unconscious inside. Your son was in the back seat." I leaned forward. "Who was driving?" Again, that glance between officers. Kaur hesitated. "We're still determining that. But evidence suggests your brother may have been behind the wheel." "What kind of evidence?" "He had no seatbelt marks. Front airbags deployed on the passenger side only." She paused. "Also, there were open bottles of wine in the vehicle, several glasses, and a hotel keycard wedged between the front seats." I didn't understand. "They were drinking?" "Yes." I blinked. "No, Rohan hasn't drunk since his DUI 5 years ago, and Priya barely touches alcohol." My voice cracked. Why would my wife be in a car with my brother and our son, alone, at night, on a country road, with wine? Kaur didn't answer. Instead, she pulled something from her jacket. A small, clear bag. Inside, Priya's phone. "It wasn't locked when we recovered it," she said. "I need you to brace yourself, Dr. Mehta." She opened the phone and tapped the photo gallery. My heart pounded. She held up the screen. A selfie. Priya in a hotel mirror. wearing nothing but a robe. Rohan's arms around her waist, kissing her neck. The timestamp, 12:48 a.m., 27 minutes before the crash. I staggered back. The wall caught me. "No," I whispered. "No, no, they wouldn't." "I'm sorry," she said softly. My legs nearly gave out. This wasn't an affair with a coworker. This wasn't some secret online fling. This was my wife and my brother. And they had brought my son into the car. Maybe he'd found out. Maybe he'd caught them. Maybe. Officer Carr placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "There's more," she said quietly. But I wasn't listening. The photo burned behind my eyes, and all I could think was, how long had I been sleeping beside a woman who would do something like this? The ICU hallway was silent. Dev had been stabilized and moved to a private room. Priya and Rohan remained in critical condition under sedation. I hadn't seen either of them. Not that I wanted to. Every second they stayed unconscious felt like a strange mercy. If I had to look them in the eye, I wasn't sure what I'd say or do. But Dev, my son, was awake. A nurse found me pacing. "Dr. Mehta, he's conscious. He's asking for you." My heart leapt and sank at the same time. I pushed the door open quietly. There he was, pale, lips cracked, bandage above his left brow, but his eyes, those were still my boy's eyes, alert, intelligent, burning with something he didn't know how to say. "Dad," he rasped. I rushed to his side and grabbed his hand. "I'm here, Dev. I'm here, son. You're okay now." He looked around like he was still trying to convince himself this wasn't a nightmare. What happened? Why am I here?" I didn't want to overwhelm him, but I had to know. "You were in a car accident," I said carefully, "with your mother and Rohan." His eyes narrowed. "I remember." His voice trailed off, lips twitching as fragments came back. "We were driving. I was yelling." "What were you yelling about?" I asked gently but firmly. He blinked. "They were kissing, in the front seat. I saw it." My stomach clenched. He continued, voice shaking now. "We were supposed to be heading home. Mom told me we were just picking up something from Uncle Rohan's place, but then they stopped at a motel." He swallowed hard. "She left me in the back seat for almost an hour. I thought maybe she was just talking to him or something." "Maybe." He looked away, ashamed. "But then I got out. I went to look through the window." He paused. They were in bed. I closed my eyes. Fury, disgust, grief, all of it boiled in my chest. "I confronted them," Dev continued. "I yelled, screamed, told her she was disgusting." His jaw trembled. She laughed, said I didn't understand adult love. "Rohan tried to calm me down, but I told him to shut up. I told him he wasn't my uncle anymore." He wiped his eyes. "She said we needed to talk it out as a family. Made me get back in the car, said she was sorry I found out that way." His voice dropped. "Then they started drinking. I was in the back crying and they were drinking and talking like I wasn't even there." He swallowed hard. "I begged her to stop driving. She wouldn't listen. Rohan said he'd drive, but she laughed and said, 'We're all a mess tonight. Might as well lean into it.'" His breath hitched. "The last thing I remember is headlights. Something coming fast, then nothing." I sat there in stunned silence. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd dragged my son into their twisted, drunken fantasy. They'd endangered his life, crushed his innocence, and then tried to play it off like it was some family matter to be resolved over a bottle of wine. No, not this time. This wasn't just infidelity. This was abuse. This was reckless endangerment. This was going to end in courtrooms, ruined reputations, and jail time. I stood slowly, brushed Dev's hair from his forehead. "You're safe now," I told him. Then I walked out. Fire in my chest, purpose in my steps. I had the truth. I had evidence. And I had nothing left to lose. By the next morning, I wasn't just a grieving husband and betrayed brother. I was a man on a mission. I had Dev's testimony. I had Priya's phone with damning photos and chat logs that made it clear this wasn't some drunken one-time lapse. It had been going on for months, and I had hospital records showing both Priya and Rohan's blood alcohol levels, both legally intoxicated. That, paired with the crash, it wasn't just betrayal, it was a felony. I sat in my office, closed the blinds, and made a call. "Vikram, it's Arjun. I need a favor, a big one." Vikram was a family lawyer I'd known for years. Sharp, discreet, cold when needed. After I explained everything, he was quiet for a beat. "You want divorce proceedings?" "Yes, immediate emergency filing. And the criminal charges?" I hesitated, then clenched my fist. "I want everything. They put my son's life at risk. I want this to go public. Legal. Loud." There was a pause. "Then we start today." By noon, we'd filed for divorce with a temporary restraining order. By evening, I'd handed over all digital evidence to Officer Carr. The DA would likely pursue charges of child endangerment and DUI with a minor present. And the final blow? I sent an anonymous tip, with photo attachments, to the hospital's ethics committee. Priya still technically worked there as a senior counselor. In her role, she counseled vulnerable patients, including teens. The hypocrisy made my stomach turn. That night, I returned to the hospital and stood outside Rohan's room. He was still unconscious, a tangle of IV lines and machines breathing for him. I stared at him for a long time through the glass. This was the brother who used to protect me from bullies. The brother who cried at my wedding speech, and he threw it all away for some selfish fantasy with my wife. You think you'll always see betrayal coming. You think it'll be flashy, obvious, dramatic. But sometimes it's your own blood kissing your wife behind your back. Later that night, I received a call from Priya's friend Meera. "Arjun, she's awake. She's freaking out. She tried to call you. She's blocked. She said she made a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to go that far." I nearly laughed. "She drove drunk with my son in the back seat, Meera. That is as far as it gets. She's saying you're overreacting." I was silent for a moment. "Tell her this," I said. "Tell her I'm not mad anymore. I'm focused." And I hung up. Because this wasn't about anger now. This was about accountability. And by the time I was done, Priya and Rohan wouldn't just be exposed. They'd be finished. By the following week, it was no longer just a family scandal. It was news. Someone from the hospital ethics board had leaked the report. Maybe a nurse, maybe an administrator. It didn't matter. What mattered was that the headlines spread like wildfire. Renowned family counselor suspended amid allegations of DUI with minor, inappropriate relationship with husband's brother. Photos from Priya's phone. Quotes from the anonymous source. Mentions of the ongoing police investigation. The public devoured every word. I sat in my living room, TV muted, watching Priya's face flash across the screen. A year-old professional headshot beside the words, "Hypocrisy at its highest." The comments online were brutal. How can someone who counsels teens drive drunk with a child in the car? If this was a man, he'd already be in jail. She's lucky the kid survived. Hope the husband sues her into the ground. And in a private Reddit thread someone created, hundreds were discussing the betrayal of both a spouse and sibling. The internet didn't just expose her, it tore her to pieces. Meanwhile, Rohan's company, an up-and-coming tech startup where I'd once helped him network, held a press conference. The founder, a mutual friend, spoke clearly. "We take these allegations seriously. Mr. Rohan Mehta has been placed on indefinite leave pending the investigation." They had no choice. Shareholders were already calling it a PR nightmare. And then came the day of the first court hearing. Divorce, custody rights, restraining order renewals, emergency hearing for temporary guardianship, all in one sitting. Priya stood in the courtroom, pale, face gaunt without makeup, eyes darting, looking for someone, anyone, to protect her. Rohan was still hospitalized, so he wasn't there. But Priya, she had no one left. Even her lawyer looked tired of her. Mine, on the other hand, was a predator in a tailored suit. When the judge asked if I had anything to submit into evidence, I handed over the following: a hard drive containing photos and videos from Priya's phone, a printed transcript of messages between her and Rohan, some discussing how to keep Dev quiet, Dev's written and signed testimony, approved by the court psychologist describing the night of the accident, a list of witnesses, a motel staff member, a nurse who overheard Priya say, "I thought he was asleep in the back," and a colleague she'd confided in about her secret love with Rohan. The judge flipped through the files in silence. Priya didn't cry. She cracked. Her hands shook. Her shoulders curled inward like she was trying to disappear. And when the judge looked up and said, "Temporary sole custody awarded to the father. Full restraining order against Mrs. Mehta is extended. Emergency child endangerment review will proceed to criminal court." Priya finally whispered, "I lost everything, didn't I?" I didn't even look at her. I just picked up my coat, placed a comforting hand on Dev's shoulder, and said, "No, you threw it away." 3 months since the court hearing. Rohan had quietly sold his shares in the company and moved out of state. Humiliated. Discarded by both the tech world and our extended family. No one wanted to be associated with him. Not after the tabloids, not after the leaked texts, and especially not after the charges. Priya's license as a counselor was officially revoked after the ethics board concluded their review. The public uproar, paired with her conduct, made reinstatement impossible. Her name was permanently removed from the registry. She'd lost her career, her credibility, her custody, and whatever fantasy she'd imagined with Rohan. I was at home with Dev one quiet Saturday afternoon. He was back to sketching in his notebook, humming to himself. The light in him had slowly returned. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello?" Silence. Then, "Arjun." It was Priya. Her voice was hoarse, low, like she hadn't slept properly in weeks. I didn't expect you to answer." I said nothing. "I know you probably hate me," she continued, voice trembling, "but I wanted to explain." I let the silence drag, then said coldly, "Go on." She inhaled deeply. "Rohan and it wasn't about you, it was about me. I felt trapped, bored, like life had become so routine and I was just drowning. He listened. He made me feel wanted. While I worked nights to provide for this family," I said sharply. "I know," she whispered. "I know I destroyed everything. But maybe if you had been more emotionally present." I cut her off. "Don't you dare shift the blame. You didn't just betray me. You endangered our son's life. You were drunk in a car with a minor in the back seat, making out with my brother." Her voice cracked. "I lost everything, Arjun. I thought maybe one day we could talk. Maybe you could forgive me." I closed my eyes for a moment, then said, calm and clear, "Forgiveness isn't mine to give. It belongs to the people you hurt. And I'm not here to help you feel better about what you did. I'm here to protect my son and bury every illusion you ever had about being the victim." She started to sob. I didn't flinch. "Goodbye, Priya." And I hung up. That night, Dev and I sat outside on the porch. He looked up at the stars and said, "Do you think people can change?" I thought about it, then replied, "Yes, but some only do after they've lost everything they thought they couldn't." He nodded slowly, satisfied. "And you?" "I'm okay, Dev. Better than okay." I had no rage left, no desire for vengeance. Only peace. Because the people who once burned my world down were now standing in the ash of their own choices. While I walked forward, hand in hand with my son, toward a future finally free of lies. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you would have done in the comments below. Like the story, share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.